Hello and welcome to the latest and greatest episode of Rallen's Rant. Today I am joined by Jaret Reddick, who is the lead singer of Bowling for Soup, who you may know for their singles such as 1985 and Girl All the Bad Guys Want. So without giving too much away with the introduction, Jaret, how are you keeping today?
Everything's good, man. Just busy morning talking about music and, things to come over the next year, and finally starting to get to talk about doing some shows again. So things are good.
So the light's getting brighter at the end of that tunnel, which is good to hear.
Yeah, for sure. I know how disappointed fans are and how just ready and hungry people are to see some live music. And all I can say is that I know from myself and for all of my friends, we're just as eager to get out there.
Yeah. And to take it back to the beginning, so to speak, is basically a question I always like to ask musicians or maybe even actors or people in that kind of industry is there's always a reason you get into music, whether it's picking up an instrument, hearing a song, someone in your family being like, learn this instrument, learn the piano, whatever. Was there a particular person or a moment back at your early age that inspired you to pick up a guitar or start the piano or just take up something music related?
Absolutely. And my story is one of those it used to be way cooler than it is now. My family was always really into music. We listened to music all the time in the car. And so I grew up and we spent a lot of time in the car. And so I grew up, with parents that just sang the whole time. And, I would join in and really learn to harmonize in the car. But, I'll never forget the feeling, the moment. And it was a very long time ago. In the 80s, I guess it would have been around 83 or so, 82, 83. A kid named Greg Norman played me Crazy Train by Ozzy. And I'll never forget how it felt. And I was just like, okay, well, this is what I want to do. And the funny thing about that story is that, it literally changed my life that day. And Ozzy was the devil back then. Everybody was scared of him. And you certainly wouldn't, have little kids. You certainly wouldn't have a kids movie, Trolls 2, singing his song.
Crazy Train.
Hear it in, and now it's on TV commercials for cars, and it's at every sporting event and all of this. And then, and he's a bumbling, old bastard on a TV show. And it's just like, you have to realize what the juxtaposition of when I say Crazy Train now versus what it was even 20 years ago, people would be like, oh, okay, I get it. Now people are like, what? Like that song, that's like literally so overplayed. It's great. So, but it is true. I just the all aboard and then just the laugh and that guitar riff and then just how it drives and the bass guitar and just, I'll never forget just hearing his voice for the first time. And, I had the bug. I instantly came home and I was like, I want to be a drummer. I want a drum set. And my dad was like, yeah, right. And I ended up getting one for Christmas and the rest is history.
Yeah, it certainly is. And I'd say a few years after that, you met a lot of your bandmates and created the band Bowling for Soup. And there's a lot of stories like when people start off touring, and like I'm a huge fan of your band. I'm a huge fan of the genre, even the likes of Blink-182, Green Day, massive bands for me. And I always admire, and it's even now, like I was recently listening to Mark Hoppus on a podcast, and he was speaking about how he doesn't ever forget his humble roots, as in there was a time where they were quote unquote slumming it out in the back of a van. And you starting out in Texas, like it mustn't have been easy, because now it's pretty much, if you've got a great pop song, you can be an internet sensation in the space of 24 hours and have this polished product by the end of the month. You had to do a lot of grafting, I'd imagine. And like, do you remember any of those? Well, I'm sure you do, but the first few weeks or few months or even maybe first few years of touring where you could have been in a bar playing in front of a wild cat and an 80-year-old drunk at a bar. Like, is there any moments? Is there any moments like that stand out?
I mean, We did 9 years in the van. And the first 6 of them were before we signed to a label, and it was all about survival. And then we signed for the label in 2000, and those next 2 years would be the hardest years of our lives, because you're playing a lot of shows for free for radio stations and things like that, and there just was no income. And when we were playing in Texas, we could draw a lot of people, and we could make a little bit of money, but getting off to going to San Jose, California, and literally 3 people pay to get in, and so, yeah, it was rough. And yeah, I agree with Mark. I think, one of the things about the van days is that we look back on those as, some of the best times of our lives. A lot of times when you hear a story from us, it will be something from the van days. We lived in that thing. We would be gone 6-8 months at a time, as before we had kids and before we had, even pets and wives. And so it was just us against the world. And sometimes it felt like that, and definitely just trying to get yourself noticed, and you just play wherever you wanted. So if we didn't have a show on a certain day, we'd go into a record store and ask them if we could play. I'd go into a bar and just say, "Hey, do you guys have a PA? Do you want a band tonight? We'll do it for $50, 4 cheeseburgers and a case of Miller Lite." But that was life, and it definitely taught us to value what it is we have now with such an amazing fan base, and not to take any of that for granted. And it definitely just made us stronger people, and it gave us the ability. Our relationships in Bowling for Soup are very different from most other bands. I mean, in other bands, you have guys and they're there, and they're maybe they're best friends. A lot of times they hate each other. Sometimes they have their differences. We are literally closer than brothers. Like we don't even like to be apart. So when we're on tour, like you can show up at the airport. This happens all the time. And they'll show up at the airport with 2 vans, and they'll be like, "You guys can spread out however you want." We're like, "No, just put all the gear in that one, and we're all getting in this one." We don't like to separate.
Yeah.
And it's that's by design. And that's we really do love each other. So you asking about those early days. Yeah, I mean, it's it happened pretty quick. We got together because 2 bands disbanded, and so we already had some songs that we could borrow from each of those. So we had an album out in 3 months, and I'd say 6 months later we were on the road, and then just nonstop until we finally had some success and were able to stay home a little bit here and there.
Yeah, and no, well said. And you were saying how when the labels came in, everything changed with regards to radio shows and exposure. And it was probably around the 2000s period. That's when like the Bitch song came out, and you started getting tastes of mainstream success. And I'm always fascinated because the music industry, and you'd know much more about this than I do, but like from an outsider looking in, it has just evolved in an absolute crazy fashion in the last even 20, 30 years, where like I'm sure record labels have maybe less power than they did 20 years ago. Live shows are where the income's at. The fan loyalty is absolutely huge. And then the concept even of an album. One of the best things I had as a teenager was looking forward to when Blink's new album was out and listen to it start to front. Now people just go, no, I'll just take that one song I like and I'll just put that on my Spotify playlist and forget the other 10 songs. But when you started out and got signed to that label, like what was it like to be a band? Because as you said, you're with your best friends. They were essentially family to you. You slummed it out in the back of a van, stinking of farts and God knows what, takeaways, And then to get that opportunity that everyone dreams of who starts a band, it's always that pipe dream that only the lucky few get to experience. But when that label took you on, you had an album or 2, and then on the 3rd album, I think it was, that you got the big success, big breakthrough. What was that like to be a part of, going from kind of, 0 to hero in the space of a year or 2, especially with your best friends?
Well, even there, I mean, it was a journey. I mean, the truth is that, growing up in the 80s and listening to metal, you that was the original sort of like hip hop where
Mm.
I just thought that we would get signed to a label and they'd show up with a truckload of money and we would and all of our dreams had come true. And then we were supposed to do a bunch of drugs and go to rehab. And, that's the way that it all worked. And unfortunately, it wasn't like that at all. It was, we put out Let's Do It for Johnny in 2000, and it did not do well in the United States. It caught on in the UK. And this is one of those, one of the craziest things ever was that we were playing at South by Southwest, a huge music festival in Austin, Texas, back in 2000. And there was nobody at our show. I mean, literally, there were a few people standing against the walls, but we just got up there and did our thing. And it's one of those deals where you're like, you never know who's watching you, because the person watching us was Steve Homer, who was promoting Reading and Leeds Festival that year. And the next thing we know, we're playing Reading and Leeds Festival. And so our label kicks it over to Music for Nations, which was a little boutique label in the UK. And they take it to Radio 1, and Radio 1 plays Summer of 69. And then the bitch song starts to get some traction on Kerrang and the other stations. And so honestly, for us, we're over here playing to no one in the United States, and we're blowing up in the UK. And it was just a very weird time. We were able to come over and tour a few times and really get a taste of it. But it wasn't that we just knew that our future was paved at that point. We still had a very unsuccessful album, and so followed that up with Drunk Enough to Dance, and Girl the Bad Guys Want did immediately well in the UK, but didn't do well here for about a year. And then when it blew up here, then at that point it started to get to where I was like, okay, we can breathe a little bit. But
and why'd you? Sorry to interrupt you. Why'd you think that happened? As in, because you do often see, especially with punk or pop rock bands, the UK or the kind of UK region take to them, or maybe Europeans do, but the Americans don't. Or in your case, there was a delayed reaction. Do you think there was any reason for that, or was it just exposure, or what?
I think definitely. I've thought about this quite a bit. I mean, first of all, we're a humorous band. And we're able to laugh at ourselves. And, I think the comedy aspect of our band really caught on in the United Kingdom. And I think that, it was just one, plus the fact that we just had a song out there that said bitch, and bitch isn't really a word that you guys use over there very much. And so, not as much as we do. Like here, you can't say cunt. Like you literally, they'll put you in prison for that. I'm joking, but it's crazy. But bitch, you just throw it around like whatever. But I think it's a combination of all of it. But we definitely, we just had a great stroke of luck of, being at Reading and Leeds Festival, and then being able to follow that up with a small club tour that did really, really well, and then open up for Sponge on our next time over, and then after that we were just headlining. But yeah, I just want to go back to something you asked because there was a lot to your last question.
I know. I'm sorry.
About no, you're good. I just want to make sure that I get that in. But you were talking about just how the evolution of music and the role of the label, and it's so crazy because you have to think about it like this. Today, the biggest moneymaker for artists, which they do complain about a lot, but artists and labels right now, is streaming. And streaming did not even fucking exist 15 years ago. It didn't, you know what I mean? It wasn't even a thing. So, my math may be wrong. Maybe it did 15 years ago. The point is that you have like us, we signed a contract in 2000, we were still selling cassettes and CDs, and you would put out a limited deal of LPs, but like nobody really would buy vinyl back then. How things have changed just so quickly and over the years and so many times, I think is pretty freaking crazy. When you look back at just the history of things, but it just makes you wonder. It's like, what's the next thing? Because it's not like CDs existed in 1985,
Yeah.
and then, so, but yeah, it's been definitely one of those things where the labels have evolved, and your mindset as a band has to evolve too. And if you can't keep up, then you sort of just end up aging out of it. I think, it's really hard to get some people our age to really focus on social media, and they're very, they fight that a lot. And even some new artists are like, why can't I just write great songs, like they used to? And it's like, man, that ain't enough anymore, man. You just, unfortunately, part of your gig is sharing a photo of your breakfast.
And it better be a good one as well. And that's nearly a topic I'd like to even talk about, is in when, as you said, you might not have got commercial success, but like one of your well-known songs would be the Bitch song. Then you followed up in the next album, you'd hits like Emily or Girls All the Bad Guys Want. And then I think the next album you could have had 1985 and like Almost on that as well. So like a lot of kind of big singles that back in the glory days of Kerrang or MTV2, they'd be on every fourth or fifth song. How did you, as a band, approach that period? Because I'd say, as you said, there was a transition. You started playing festivals. There was exposure. There was probably exterior pressure coming in, also pressure on yourselves. You're like, hang on, we could actually, make more money here if we're producing the goods. Like, how was it? Just a time where you just felt like everything was clicking, or like how did you go about making those back-to-back stellar years with singles?
Yeah. The big thing was not to put that pressure on ourselves. I mean, the big thing was, let's enjoy this. It could all end tomorrow. There is this pressure to have another hit or a bigger hit. And we managed to do that 3 times. Put out Let's Do It for Johnny, and then we put out Girl Back or Drunk Enough to Dance, and we had some great success, and then even bigger success on the next record. And then Burrito didn't do bad. I mean, we could sense that the label was kind of starting to pull their hand back a smidge. They were sort of starting to be like, maybe we're not, you can kind of feel it. The point was, though, for us, again, and some of my answers are going to sound very cliche, but if you go back and read the way that I've spoken for the last 27 years, you'll see that it's the God's honest truth. I mean, we really love what we do, and it's always been like, hey, as long as we're having fun, let's just ride the wave, and let's just see what happens, and let's do what we want to do. And so, that was really the big balance of like the whole label thing, was really finding, what it is, like how to convince them that our ideas were good, to do some of the things that they thought were a good idea, but also to learn that you didn't have to say yes to everything. Because labels do want you to do some stupid shit, because quite frankly, people are trying to explain their job away, and be like, oh yeah, I came up with this idea, and there's a lot of that in the record industry, a lot of credit taking for things that, someone had nothing to do with. But yeah, I mean, our mindset was pretty clear. It was like, dude, this is crazy. Oh, we get to do this now. And, oh shit, we're going where? This is awesome. And so we were very lucky that by the time that, 2007, 2008, 9, something like that, not 2009 really, when we got dropped from our label after having just finished what we thought was our best album ever, Sorry for Partying. We never really got a chance to even promote that record. Even to that point, we had never really, everything was still just like, this is fucking awesome. Like, let's just keep doing this. Then it kind of came to where it's like, okay, what's the plan now? Like, do we go for it again, or, are we just done? And luckily we decided to go for it, and we've been self-sufficient since, and self-financed and all of that. And our fans are our boss, and still enjoying it.
Yeah, and as I said, it is a big thing in the UK and even here in Ireland, where there are these bands that, like today's maybe kids, if you're in Ireland, if you're in England, you're not going to be saying, okay, Bowling for Soup. But to give you a bit of context to this, me and my other 26-year-old friends, we were at a house party a few weeks ago against COVID regulations, but the police can deal with that. And I throw on one of my playlists, which had 1985 on it. And it starts playing. And you can kind of see at the table, half of the table, and I'll be bluntly honest, we're like, what is this? This has got guitars in it, this has got drums in it. But then there was like 2 or 3 other guys who were like, oh, I remember this. And then once the chorus comes in, it goes, everyone's singing along, everyone's screaming at the top of their voice. And then they're like, no, play the other one, the girl all the bad guys want. Then that started playing. And before we know it, we were actually paying the guy whose phone was on the speaker to keep playing your biggest hits. And it's not like these guys had listened to your music like I had, but they were actually just like, no, let's keep going. Because as you said, it was that kind of feel good, easygoing music that actually made you feel great. And I suppose one of the things I want to ask you about,
it's funny. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but that's one of the things where you talk about how when I meet someone, and they're like, what do you do? And normally I'll just try and get out of the conversation if they don't know who I am. And I'll just be like, I play music. But when someone hears that you're a musician or an actor, you've already said like something that they dreamed of at some point in their life. That's what you do. So they're interested. And it's like, okay, well, I'm in a band called Bowling for Soup. Oh, okay. I feel like I know that. And it's like, look, I'm not going to sit here and go down the list of songs. You know a few of my songs, even if you don't realize you know a few of my songs. Yeah. You just do. And it's, it's that there's the luck of having, 7, 8, 9 hits, where you're just like, really, you've been exposed to us at some point. You just may not remember.
Yeah, in the subconscious. And one of the questions actually that was sent in about one of your most decorated songs almost was, and like it is one of my favorites, by the way, as well. Absolutely adore it. Great video for it as well. But with that song, unlike maybe some of the other ones, it's always been kind of the humor side. And they were asking, is that actually based on a true story? Because some of the lines in it would suggest maybe it would be.
It isn't. Most of my songs, there's some sort of a reality to it. It's either based upon something that really happened, or something that happened to someone, or almost literally just sort of started with like the ridiculousness of being drunk at school at 14, and then basically going from there into as bad as shit could possibly get, but nothing ever really happens, So you almost do this, and you almost do this, and you almost go to prison, and you almost, all of that. And I mean, he doesn't even move to LA. He's just like, so where, and he was almost, really, that's that song. Nothing happens. The only thing that happens to that song is that he tears the note up and, wrote a song about it, tore it up and threw it all away, which doesn't make sense because he actually did write it. He didn't almost write it, but that's a whole nother story. I don't want to get myself on grammar shit, but no, that one is completely fabricated and really just kind of just written around the chorus.
And like as you were saying, like that, those songs do get recognized no matter where you go. And just to talk a bit about touring, obviously it's a massive part. And I've read members of your band, including yourself, saying, like, as you even mentioned there earlier, like it's nearly the heart and soul. It's people miss, if you've got a 9 to 5, they miss maybe going into the office and, interacting with humans. With you, I'm sure the buzz you get is being in front of crowds, hearing the feedback, seeing people going mad, people throwing bras up on stage, whatever. And like, what is that like from just a touring perspective? Say you come to Europe, you're traveling all over the country, seeing different cultures, different receptions every night, people with different backstories when they meet you. Like, is that really the pomp of being in a band? Is that the highlight of it? Like when you get to travel and see the looks in people's faces when you're playing their favorite songs?
Yeah. It kind of, I mean, that's really the whole why you do it thing. People are like, man, touring is, we talk about how boring it is all the time. It's a lot of hurry up and wait. It's a lot of, breaking down or stuff not being open to eat or not having a place to take a shit. It's just, it's not the most glamorous or fun life, but what keeps you doing it? Well, you get an hour and a half every night where everybody's singing every single song back to you, and it's something you made up in your kitchen in your underwear, and here are these Japanese kids singing every line to every song. I mean, we just went to South Africa about a year before the pandemic, and we had never been there before, and both our shows sold out, and it was crazy just how they knew all of the songs and stuff. And I even our first trip to Ireland, I remember, like, we had gone to England and Scotland and Wales a few times, but had never actually made it over to Ireland and or to Northern Ireland, right? We hadn't been to either of them. And is that right? Did I say that right? There's Ireland and Northern Ireland, right?
Yeah, Northern Ireland. Yeah.
Yeah. So we had never been to either of them. And I remember even the first time that we came there, and it was just, we played this thing in Dublin for the first time we were ever in Ireland. It was called the Freshers' Ball, I believe. And
UCD Freshers' Ball, yeah.
Yeah. And they had it at the Academy. And so it was great fun, just the drunkest kids ever. And it was a party, and that's what we wanted. But yeah, I mean, quite frankly, that's the thing, you travel for 24 hours on a plane to go and play 3 shows, and it's all worth it. The minute you start that first riff and they start, and that you just see the look in their eyes, and they realize what the first song is, and just, it's so magical, and you watch everybody look at each other, and it's you hear the term better than sex all the time, man, but it might be. It might just be.
We may have found a winner. And with the torn side of things, I've spoken to, and I even know one or two maybe of the Irish bands, and they've told me some pretty interesting stories when maybe they toured America. Like, is there any infamous stories you have, maybe if it's not related in the American side of things, when you're in Europe or even over in Ireland? Was there ever any kind of Spinal Tap type things, or was there ever anything that kind of stood out in the memory?
That Spinal Tap thing, of just them going down that long hallway and never finding a stage. I mean, unless you're in a band and have toured, unless you're in a band or have been with a band and toured the UK, you probably don't get that is actually making fun of a real thing. Like, it is sometimes a 20-minute freaking walk through doors and stairs and hallways and stuff to the stage, because the building was built 400 years ago or whatever, and this is the maze to get to the room that's big enough to have you guys and your catering in there. It's like, this is what it is. But yeah, I mean, you have those moments all the time, and sometimes they're funny, and sometimes they take the wind out of your sail. But definitely you just try to stay upbeat. But for sure, there's little things like we got on a bus one time, and none of our plugs worked and none of our adapters worked, because they were like, "Oh, this is a German bus." And we're like, "Oh, sure. Why wouldn't it be a German bus? Like, what the hell?" Like, you can't plug anything in, and we're on this thing for 2 weeks, but those kind of things happen, quite a bit, where you're just, and you just gotta try to keep a good attitude about it. And, I'm really lucky because, our crew are family, and there's just kind of always somebody that finds the humor in things, and it's not always the same person, but that can kind of lighten things up when it needs to be lightened up, and that. And but yeah, that hallway thing, if you only knew, if the general population only knew how accurate that is, it is so damn funny.
Yeah. No, because I've played a few. I don't play in a band anymore, but I was in one for about 2 years, and I don't know if you've ever played Whelan's in Dublin, but it's like it's a big room to play, but the thing is, it's like 4 stories high for some reason backstage. So you're up in the green room, and then you have to go through 2 rooms, then you have to go up these stairs to go downstairs.
Yep.
And like if you take one wrong turn or if someone's left in the toilet, it's Spinal Tap 2.0 all over again. And people are just like, where's the show? You're playing the first song and realize the bass player's in the toilet. So it definitely can happen. I back you on that. And one of the things...
Up some stairs to go down some stairs is that is very much something that we say all the time for us being over there in your part of the country or your part of the world. Because if you're doing a show in wherever, like say Sheffield, England, and you're just like, okay, the stage is just this way, and you go up these 3 stairs and then down a full flight and then through 7 doors, back up some stairs, down some stairs, and it's like, that's not even that big of a deal. It can get way worse.
Yeah. And the concept of touring, or even it being in a band, and especially the journey you've been on, Jaret, as in you've had some great touring experiences, you've had some great hits, you've had some bad moments, like even you referred there, say when the label drops you, or the uncertainty of the future of the band. And like with regards to every band, and like as I said, I don't want to keep name dropping them, but like Mark Hoppus there said how he wrote his latest album, it was kind of spurned out of depression. He was in just this rut, and the only way he could find escape was by writing music, which is a lot of the time, whether you're an artist or even just a normal human being, you listen to music just to maybe find that escape. So like with regards to just form that into a question, like you've openly spoken about times where, it's been tough, and every single human being has the good times, the bad times. Like how have you found a way to get over that hump or get out of that? Has it been through writing music, friends, family, touring? What has been the escape for you?
Yeah, man, thank you for asking that question. It's an important thing to talk about. If you don't know my history, just Google it. You can hear that I never intended to make mental health my cause, but unfortunately, it got me. And once it got me, I realized, man, if it can affect me, I'm the happiest person in the world. I even think I'm the happiest person in the world, and I'm me. I mean, but those around me are like, that dude's never in a bad mood. I'm just not. I am as positive as I come across. I promise you, like, this is me. But it got me, and it's something that I've dealt with for a lot of years. I gained a lot of weight due to basically just not giving a shit, not wanting to fucking get out of my bed and not, and it's, that, and then I gained a bunch of weight, like I said, and that made me more depressed. And it's just kind of this snowball. Well, it's something that I've dealt with through therapy, and I do take medication. And when COVID hit, yeah, man, it got me real good. And I couldn't really figure out why, because I wasn't upset. I wasn't scared to get COVID or anything like that. What I realized is that I just had an empty calendar, and I've never had an empty calendar before. As you guys say, diary. My diary was empty, and I've always lived from, hey, you're home this week, and then you're going to be here for 3 weeks. And then when you come home, you've got this. So everything's done in these spaces that you're there. Well, all of a sudden I had stuff coming off my calendar and just disappearing. And I realized, shit, I don't know what to do with myself. You wake up that first Saturday and you're like, oh, okay, well, this is exactly like Thursday. So what I did was I threw myself into playing shows online. I basically said yes to every single charity that asked me to do something, every single friend of mine that was doing some kind of a drive or a food drive or whatever. I did it. I started doing a bunch of shows of my own on the internet. I've done so basically between, in COVID, I did over 100 shows, and that was my release. And I threw myself into my work, which I always do. I mean, anybody who keeps up with me knows I'm a really busy guy, and if you try to keep up with everything that I do, it will probably make you anxious. But yeah, I wrote a Bowling for Soup record. We went and recorded it because I missed my guys. I wrote a country record, which I'm actually going to be tracking the vocals to next week. I just decided, hey, I'm here. And then the other thing is I got to spend time with my youngest son, who, he's 8. And, I have been really busy the last few years of his life. So, and I've gotten a lot of quality time with my wife, which we didn't have a shortage of that anyway, but, and I've gotten closer with my friends who are around here. And I also, I know my relationship better with my band than I did before this started, because I know how much we miss one another and how important it is for us to keep in contact, and just even we do like these little Facebook hangouts where we just get on Facebook, the 4 of us, and just get shit faced, and people watch, and it's the best part of
I was one of the people who watched one of them.
Okay, see, but I mean, like, that's like the best part of my week when we do those. Like, it's because I really do miss them so much. And I think you can tell, right? If you're watching it, you're going, man, these guys genuinely love each other. Yeah. So anyway, I was able to deal with it. And I've had, and look, I've had ups and downs. And I think, about 2 months into it, one of my friends said something, and it's not like a famous friend. It's just a general, just someone that I know on Facebook, just put this sentence into the world. And I was like, thank you so much. It's just like, she said, you don't have to organize the garage. You don't have to lose weight. You don't have to redo your kitchen, and you don't have to accomplish this, and you don't have to accomplish this, or change this, or change this, or change this. We're in a pandemic. All you have to do is survive. And I was like, holy shit. I mean, that just rang so, and it was like this weight, for lack of a better term, lifted off of my shoulders, just like, okay, well, I'm going to breathe through this now. And it's like those things that you accomplish are bonus, because she's not wrong. I mean, what, 1 million fucking people died so far, It's like, this is the thing that we're living through right now. Our grandchildren will learn about this in school. Like, it will literally be in history books this last year of our lives. That's a big fucking deal, So, but I do want to say, if you are having a hard time, you're not alone. And I know there's a lot, man. I talk to a lot of my fans, or people that like my music or whatever. I try to be available, and man, I have so many that they've been locked in a 1-bedroom apartment by themselves for over a year. And, so I consider myself lucky. And, but I just want to say to everybody, you're not alone. We're going to get through this. And if you need, make sure that you're reaching out when you need somebody. Somebody's there. And if you can't find somebody, go to the BFS fan page. Even if you're not a Bowling for Soup fan, go to the Bowling for Soup fan page on Facebook and tell somebody you need to talk, and there's somebody there.
Well said. And Jared, I actually thought what you were saying there, it did get me thinking. And like, as you said, it is something that you've kind of, as you said, like, you felt like you were the happiest guy in the world, and it still caught you. And I did think it is like worthwhile, especially since I have you on. And like, to be honest, like, my parents probably wouldn't know this, and my best friends wouldn't know this, because they'd look at me and be like, oh, this guy's the class clown. These guys always laughing, kind of making the stupid jokes. Yeah. And I remember, like, as in, luckily I can count once or twice in my life I've bit the bug and felt really, really shit about things. And the reason I'm actually bringing this up with you is because I remember back when I was 17, family was going through a bad stage. I won't, give you the sob story and make a Hollywood film out of it, but it was a tough period for me and the rest of the family. And one of the songs, and the thing is, it's similar to like maybe a Blink-182, is they've got their stupid songs, like All the Small Things and stuff like that. And you might have the stupid songs, but they're not stupid, like High School Never Ends, The Bitch, or I'm Gay, you name it.
I feel you.
They're kind of the lighthearted songs. But The song that actually was on my playlist that when I was in bed thinking the world was against me was Turbulence. And it is one of the times where, and I know the labels probably were like, okay, you've done enough of the normal songs, do a ballad. Come on, we want people to cry and stuff like that. But that song, because it was so relatable and because it was like, it was something that like when you think of Bowling for Soup, you don't think of these ballads, this kind of folky guitar riff going in and the backing vocals. But the actual message of the song, it helped me through that period immensely. And I do think it is important just that you do know that. And as you said, you'll get credit for The High School
Well, I
Never Ends
appreciate
and
you
stuff like
saying
that.
that.
But
I appreciate
Turbulence,
you saying that. You know, I got to tell you, there wasn't a label for that one, and you know, I'd kind of already put my heart out there with When We Die and a few other ones, but when we struck Turbulence, you know, that was on Fishing for Woos. I mean, that was our album that we got dropped from our label in December, and we were already recording that in April. So a lot of that came from feeling like the rug had been just completely pulled out from under me, and you know, and I don't look at this like a selfish thing. I feel like I have to take care of my guys and my family and their families, and then our crew and their families. Whatever this pyramid of like the amount of pressure that I felt to deliver something that would keep this band going. You know, I feel like that shows in some of those songs that would follow, you know, that time of my life up. But you know, you're not the first to tell me that about Turbulence, but it affects me exactly the same way. That means a lot to me, and you know, I that's one of those gifts, you know, that someone can give you where you don't, you know, just your heart just sort of brightens a little bit, and it's just like, God, I'm just thankful that you know, that you took care of yourself and you got through that time in your life.
yeah. Well, no, and thank you as well, Jared. And I don't want to finish on a bummer note. Not that is bummer; it is important. But and like as you said there, that like that was even without a label. That album now, as the pandemic hopefully is gearing towards the end, like even with England, I see Leeds Festival and stuff sold out in the weekend. They're adamant it will go ahead, and especially in the UK, it seems like it will be a case where it could be seeing normality by the summer or else um, early like November, December. And obviously you've got a UK tour planned as well. But with say Bowling for Soup, where as you've had success, as you even said, you can be at a house party in Dublin in the piss and rain and 1985 comes on and people kind of look around and go, I know this song. Do you still
Yeah.
have the hunger and drive to say, you know what, people might think we're done as a band creatively, but do you still have that drive to say, you know what, I think we can strike gold, we can have that big moment again? Or is it a case where, listen, we're not putting pressure on ourselves and we're just going to enjoy the ride?
I just want to make great Bowling for Soup records and songs. I haven't had the pressure to have a hit in a very long time. Well, really since 2009, since coming off of Sorry for Partying, where we legitimately thought we had 5 or 6 singles on that thing. We thought it was going to be the biggest thing we'd ever done. You know, I mean, even the people from the label who were associated with us were just like, this is a fucking no brainer. I mean, y'all are going to fucking explode again. And it was
Yeah.
just happening. And coming off of something like that, it's just like, look, we don't have to do that. I mean, in fact, we don't even work radio anymore. You know, it's like we don't even try. It's like that's just not even a thing. And of course, I know like someone your age would be like, yeah, why would you? But radio is still kind of a big deal, and especially, you know, and it can make
Yeah.
make an artist, you know, more popular or whatever. But I, no, I don't have that pressure. The only pressure I have is those that I've already converted. I want to put something out that they're proud of, that they can go to everybody and be like, see, this fucking band has still got it, you know, like, and you know, and wave it in their
Yeah.
face, like, oh, you thought, yeah, you know, okay, let's compare this to your favorite band's, you know, 24th album, you know, and see where they're at. And, you know, so, and it's a good place to be, honestly, man. I think I really do feel like if this isn't our second or third best Bowling for Soup album, then I've lost my mind. But I think people, when we are going to release a new record sometime this year, and I truly believe that people are going to be like, "Oh shit!" like this is something else. And so all you can do is wait and see. But I know I'm proud of it, and I'm excited to get back out there on the road. And you know what? And we'll still be playing 1985 every night. So everybody just come see us.
Yeah, everybody wins in the end.
That's right.
Just to finish off there, Jaret, the way I end these podcasts is a bit lighthearted messing where I just do a quick fire round. Okay. So it's nothing too personal. It's nothing too incriminating. So don't worry. Some people often think, oh, hang on. And if it's too incriminating, I can always edit it out, but I don't think that will be the case. So with regards to the question, the first one I had sent in was, have you ever tried Guinness? And if so, what are your thoughts?
I have tried Guinness. I don't like it. I don't hate it. It's not the worst thing I've ever had. The problem is that I don't like beer. I like one brand of beer. Like I like Miller Lite, which you guys don't really have over there. And so I can sort of get down a few other kinds or whatever, but Guinness is it's a little too heavy for me. But I will say that it doesn't taste as dark as it is. If I were to give it one compliment, it's way more refreshing than it looks, but I just can't do real men's beer. I'm a chick.
Yeah, that's fair enough. You'll never get to experience, Irish people call it the Guinness shits, where if you drink loads of Guinness,
yeah,
you can imagine what it looks like coming out the other side. It's not pleasant, apparently.
I can only imagine.
And what is your best or favorite venue you've ever played?
Oh man, that is such a crazy question because, we've been around the world multiple times and, we play huge festivals and small clubs and all of that. Man, best venue I've ever played. Man, I guess I gotta say in the world, probably, shit. Man, I can't. Okay, I'm going to say my favorite venue is Brixton Academy. And I can only say that because we sold out a show there last year. And the intensity and the electricity, maybe I was just too used to where we were. But yeah. Man, it was a step up. I don't even know. That may be a shitty answer. That was a hard question.
No, Brixton Academy it's infamous. I actually went to a gig there. It was actually Blink-182's second last ever gig. They headlined Reading Festival 2 days later. They used it as a warm-up gig. They played there, sold it out. And that place, when it sold out, and the great thing is, like, it's not big enough where you could have a few drag-ins who don't really know your band and just kind of friends of friends who are going along. There's just that energy. It's still that intimate venue, big enough to create that kind of feedback of roar and just madness. And I completely get where you're coming from. So I'm not going to dispute that claim. And the next one is favorite film. And I know you do your own podcast about film. So if anyone wants to check it out, do indulge. But what is your favorite film of all time?
Pulp Fiction is my favorite movie ever.
Good choice. I can't really dispute that.
Thank you.
And this is a kind of unique question, and it may take you a few seconds to decide, but what is your favorite Bowling for Soup bridge of a song?
Oh, yeah. No, oh, that's a fucking great question, actually. Okay. I got this. It would probably be, God, there's so many good ones. I mean, like, if you don't know this about me, Richie, I can ride a fucking bridge.
You can.
I'm a bridge fucking rider. And so, I mean, one of my favorites is Two Seater. I wrote that song with my friend Zach, and he didn't remember writing it because we were so drunk. And I remember playing it back for him the next day, and it's just like, "Can you hear your radio?" And the whole point is she can't hear her radio because the car's been destroyed by this guy who, was heartsick or whatever. That's a pretty damn good one. But yeah, I think that's probably I guess that's probably that's the first one that comes to mind anyway.
Okay. And second last question is, if you could have written one song by another band, what would it be and why?
This is going to surprise you, and I've never actually said this answer before, but Everlong by the Foo Fighters, because
Great song.
Nobody ever gets sick of that song. Like, that's just one of those songs where it's just like you could literally hear it at every event you go to, and you're still going, okay, yeah, anything I'll ever feel this real, and you're just stoked, just makes you feel good. So that would be one, because I'd want to write one. It wouldn't necessarily have to be the biggest hit in the world, just something where people will always enjoy it.
Yeah, no, I've been to a Foo Fighters concert when he plays that open E string, and I think it's the 7th fret on the 5th string. Everyone just immediately just kind of switches on and goes, right, we're going to enjoy the next 4.5 minutes.
Yeah, it's a good one.
And last but not least, sum yourself up in 3 words.
Myself up in 3 words. Nice freaking guy.
Well said. Well, Jared, that pretty much concludes it. I want to thank you for taking time out. I know it's been busy last few months by the sounds of it. And
yeah, man. Well, thanks for your patience and getting me on here, man. I know I'm hard to chase down sometimes, but I'm glad we got it done.
No problem. And I just want to say on behalf of the new fans who listen to this, or even the current Bowling for Soup fans, I'm excited to see what's next. I know you've got tours planned. By the sounds of it, you've got a new album on the horizon as well. And as I said, stay safe. Hope everything works out. And fingers crossed we get to see you back in the academy here in Dublin, not too distant future.
I hope so too, man. Take care.
All the best.